What if you could remove all uncertainty from life? No more fear of tomorrow, no more anxiety about loss, no more pain from the unknown. But here's the cost. You don't get to choose anymore. Your future is already written, and you're forced to live through it. Now imagine a man so convinced this is peace that he's willing to reset the entire universe to make it happen. A priest, a believer, a man of God, who becomes one of the most dangerous villains in anime history. And here's the scary part. He doesn't think he's saving himself. He thinks he's saving all of us. And that's exactly the question Father Enrico Pucci forces us to confront. This is Beyond the Villain, where we unmask evil, one story at a time. Tonight we examine not just what Father Enrico Pucci did, but the philosophy that made it inevitable. From JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean, voiced by Tomokazu Seki. Pucci isn't just chasing power, he's chasing heaven. Father Enrico Pucci represents the logical extreme of determinism and shows what happens when free will is sacrificed in the name of peace. Because when you remove uncertainty from life, you don't create salvation, you create control. Pucci didn't start as a villain, he started as a believer, raised in faith, disciplined, devoted, a man who genuinely wanted to do good. But his life wasn't simple. He had a sister, Perla, and like many stories that end in tragedy, it began with love. Perla fell in love with a man named Wes, but Pucci discovered something horrifying. Wes was actually his biological brother, a secret hidden by adoption, a truth buried by the past. So Pucci made a decision. He hired private investigators to separate them. He thought he was protecting his family. But that decision spiraled. The investigators took things too far. Wes was attacked. Perla, overwhelmed by guilt and chaos, she took her own life. And just like that, Pucci's world collapsed. This is the moment everything changes. Not because Pucci wanted power, but because he couldn't accept randomness. He couldn't accept that life could fall apart because of hidden truths. Coincidence. Bad timing. He couldn't accept fate as something uncontrollable. Then came Dio, a man who didn't just embrace fate, he wanted to understand it, master it, weaponize it. Pucci found meaning in Dio's philosophy, a belief that if humanity could fully understand their fate, they would find peace. No more fear of the unknown. No more suffering from uncertainty. Just acceptance. But here's the shift. Pucci didn't just believe in this idea. He devoted his entire existence to it. He gained a stand, Whitesnake, then evolved it into Sea Moon, and finally, Made in Heaven. A power that doesn't just affect individuals, it accelerates time itself, until the universe resets, until every human being experiences their entire fate and is reborn, already knowing what's going to happen. Think about that. A world where you already know every mistake you'll make, every loss you'll suffer, every moment you'll fail, and you can't change any of it. Pucci looked at that and called it heaven. They didn't see themselves as evil. They saw themselves as necessary. At the core of Pucci's belief is one idea: determinism. The belief that everything in the universe, every action, every decision, every outcome, is already predetermined. Nothing is truly random. Nothing is truly free. This idea isn't new. Philosophers like Baruch Spinoza believe that true freedom comes from understanding necessity. That once you accept that everything happens according to natural laws, you stop resisting reality. You find peace. Pucci takes that idea and pushes it further. He doesn't just want to understand fate. He wants everyone to experience it. Fully, completely, irreversibly. Because in his mind, suffering doesn't come from pain. It comes from uncertainty. Not knowing what's coming. Not knowing if things will get worse. Not knowing if you'll survive. So remove uncertainty, and you remove fear. It sounds logical, almost comforting. But here's the flaw, a dangerous one. If you already know your future, but you can't change it, you're not free. You're trapped. This is where Pucci crosses the line. He confuses peace with surrender. Because real peace isn't about knowing everything. It's about choosing, despite not knowing. Pucci doesn't eliminate suffering. He eliminates choice. And once choice is gone, so is humanity. Enter Jolene Cujo. She represents the exact opposite of Pucci's worldview. Where Pucci believes fate is fixed, Jolene believes in defiance. She doesn't know what's coming. She doesn't have certainty. She doesn't have control over the universe. But she fights anyway. This is the philosophical clash: determinism versus free will. Pucci says, accept your fate, and you'll find peace. Jolene says, even if I lose, I choose to fight. And that's the difference. Pucci sees struggle as pointless. Jolene sees struggle as meaning. One removes uncertainty, the other embraces it. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Both sides make sense. Because yes, uncertainty causes pain, but it also creates hope. Without uncertainty, you don't just lose fear, you lose possibility. This isn't just fiction. Pucci's philosophy shows up in the real world more than we realize. Think about authoritarian systems, governments that promise stability but demand control. You'll be safe as long as you follow the system. You'll have peace as long as you don't question authority. It sounds familiar, right? Historically, regimes have justified extreme control in the name of order and predictability. Less chaos, less uncertainty. But at what cost? Freedom. Or take a modern example. In workplaces, some systems try to eliminate uncertainty completely. Strict rules, rigid structures, no room for creativity. Everything is predictable, everything is controlled. And yes, it reduces risk. But it also kills growth. Because growth requires uncertainty, failure, experimentation. Even on a personal level, people try to control their lives so tightly to avoid pain. They plan everything, avoid risks, stay in safe zones. But eventually, they realize something. A life without uncertainty is a life without movement. Pucci's world isn't just fictional, it's a warning. So now we ask the real question. Was Pucci truly evil, or just a man broken by chaos? Because think about it. Everything he did came from a desire to eliminate suffering. He lost his sister. He witnessed how fragile life is, how quickly things fall apart. And instead of accepting that, he tried to fix it. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. If someone offered you a world where you would never be surprised again, never be caught off guard, never fear the unknown, would you take it? Even if it meant giving up choice? Even if it meant your life was already decided? Because it's easy to call Pucci a monster. But his logic, it's not insane. It's just incomplete. And that's what makes him dangerous. He's not driven by cruelty, he's driven by certainty. And certainty can be more dangerous than evil. So what do we actually take from this? Pucci's philosophy isn't entirely wrong. Understanding patterns in life, accepting that some things are out of our control, learning to face reality instead of resisting it, that's strength. But the moment you try to eliminate uncertainty completely, you cross into control. The balance is this: accept what you cannot control, but fight for what you can. Use awareness, but don't lose agency. Because the goal isn't to predict life perfectly. It's to live it fully. And that means embracing risk, embracing failure, embracing the unknown. Because that's where meaning exists. Not in certainty, but in choice. Father Enrico Pucci didn't want to destroy the world. He wanted to perfect it. But in doing so, he revealed something terrifying. A perfect world without uncertainty is a world without freedom. And when freedom disappears, so does everything that makes us human. Pucci followed his philosophy to its logical end. No hesitation, no doubt, no compromise. And that's what makes him so dangerous. The most terrifying villains are not the ones who lie, but the ones who follow their philosophy to its logical end. So now I'll ask you this. Is Father Enrico Pucci a monster or a mirror? Because maybe the desire to control life, to remove uncertainty, to avoid pain, is something we all share. This has been Beyond the Villain. We unmask evil, one story at a time. Let me know what you think. Would you accept Pucci's version of heaven or fight against it?